Thank you, Doug, and certainly you and I have seen each other, I think, every day I've been here so far, and it's important to me. But what's important, too, as I look around this room today to make this announcement, it's BMO Kids Day. And I think that's part of what Stampede is all about, is educating future generations of farmers. And it's not lost on me. And when, people say, what's your favorite part about the Stampede? And as an agriculture minister, of course, bucking broncos and chuck wagon races and so on and so forth are important. But what's really important is seeing the kids interact with the different commodities that are in this building and that are represented across the board. So we have a lot of key players today from the Canadian beef industry here with us, and I'm pleased to have you all welcome us, my wife and I, in Calgary. This is my second year. It's not my second time at the Stampede, but it's certainly a second time in this role. And we've been welcomed with open arms, and that's important to me, to build that communication and collaboration from government to government, from industry to industry and stakeholders. In 2025, farm cash receipts from the sale of cattle and calves totaled $20.65 billion, and over 40% of it comes from right here in Alberta. Canadian cattle producers are building on the reputation of quality, reliability, and safety to sell over $5 billion worth of meat every year. Over the past few years, producers in Alberta and across the prairies have dealt with a variety of challenges. We are in constant discussions with provinces, territories, industry to control what we can ensure is the future success of Canada's agriculture and agri-food sector. And a quick shout out to farmers in Manitoba right now, some beef farmers that are struggling with floods. It's certainly challenging times. It seems to be different parts of the countries at different times. And I can tell you, hopefully the government can stand shoulder to shoulder with the provincial provinces and with the stakeholders. But today is what's really important for me. And I've traveled around the world, and I've had some of these guys standing behind me at different podiums around the world, sitting at the negotiation tables, sitting beside me, making sure I have the right information at the right time so we can make policy decisions based on trade negotiations going forward that's going to support them. I'm pleased to announce a federal investment of over $4 million under the agri-marketing program to expand our beef markets even more. And I think it's extremely important that I believe we trade with about 54 countries around the world right now, and it's important that we continue to build on that. And we continue to build on our CUSMA review. It's an important market for us. We're joined at the hips. I don't have to explain to the beef farmers in this room how important that market is, but it's also important that we move markets as well and try to open up diversification. And I can remember sitting with Tyler in Indonesia. I can remember sitting with Tyler in China. I think we need to continue. We expanded the market in Mexico. We'll continue to diversify. And when I started this role, diversification was number one. And it's still as important as it was that day for the beef farmers in this country. The largest portion of today's investment, over $3.7 million, will build on a long legacy of supporting the great work of Canadian beef. This new money will support promotion of Canadian beef and veal in the global market with a strong focus on the Indo-Pacific region. Today's investment also includes up to $300,000 to help Canadian Cattlemen Association expand and gain access to key markets for beef products. It's extremely important that we recognize the importance not only to the beef farmers, but the economic value that the beef farmers bring to each and every province in this country. And that is not lost on me. It's the economic value it brings to the Canadian economy as a whole. So I'm here to stand shoulder to shoulder with these guys here today and the beef farmers across the country to make sure that we do everything possible, that they are sustainable and prosperous into the future, no matter what the geopolitical situation we find ourselves in. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister MacDonald. It's now my pleasure to welcome Eric Bienvenue, the President of the Canadian Beef.
Good morning. I'm Eric Bienvenue, President of Canada Beef. Welcome, everyone, and my sincere thanks to Honourable Heath MacDonald, Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, for his presence and mostly for his support. Bonjour, je m'appelle Eric Bienvenue, je suis président de Bœuf Canada. Je vous souhaite la bienvenue et j'adresse mes plus sincères remerciements à l'honorable Heath MacDonald, ministre de l'Agriculture et de l'Agroalimentaire du Canada, pour sa présence et pour son appui. Every rancher and farmer in this country has a story. It starts well before sunshine every morning, and often on land that has been in the family for generations. And it ends with positive experiences, as Mr. MacDonald said, dining tables here in Canada, but also around the world, and cities most of us will never visit. Today is about bringing that story to a bigger audience. Canada Beef applauds the federal government's effort to open and expand trade opportunities for Canadian beef. Canada Beef holds a great deal of confidence in its partnership with Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada under the Agri-Marketing Program to support and maintain global Canadian beef market development. Market diversification, as again said by Minister MacDonald, has never mattered more. This 2-year, $3.7 million agreement let us partner with the federal government to build and sustain loyalty to Canadian beef with consumers in every continent. And it multiplies what ranchers and producers already contribute to Canada Beef. Every government dollar works alongside their checkoff investment, positioning our industry for long-term growth in a high-opportunity markets. Canada has always been a trading nation. We export almost half of everything we produce in the highest value markets on earth. And that reach comes right back to the farm gate, selling beef cuts to the markets that want them the most adds almost $1,400 in value to each animal. Last year alone, Canadian beef exports generated more than $5.3 million in sales, a record year for Canada. So thank you again, Minister MacDonald, for today's announcement. Canada's ranchers, producers, and the entire beef value chain values that partnership. It strengthens our industry, our economy. It holds together the social fabric of rural communities, and it protects the agricultural lands entrusted to our care. And thank you, if I may add, to all our Canadian who love the Canadian beef. We earn the right to showcase our story to the world, and we do so proudly. We are proud of the delicious, high-quality, nutrient-dense food we raise and provide. We are proud to have the federal government standing with us as we bring it to the world. Thank you, and please welcome Mr. Is that you? No? Thank you very much.
Sorry about that. No worries. Thank you, Eric. It's now my pleasure to welcome the President of the Canadian Cattle Association, Tyler Fulton.
Good morning, everyone. Well, it's a thrill to represent the cattle industry here at Stampede and at this announcement. Quite simply, there is an energy in the industry that we haven't seen in decades, and it relates to, honestly, the phenomenal weather that we've seen really largely across the West, but also the great signals, the demand for the product that has led to some of the best prices that ranchers and feed yards have seen in decades, well, forever. And so With that, I want to take the opportunity to just relay why this investment is so important for the industry. In today's environment, in particular, with all of the geopolitical, disease, weather risk, investment in ensuring and securing market access is critical for the resilience and the growth of the industry. And we are in a growth phase. We saw a 2.5% increase in the cow herd last year, and with conditions today, I'm really optimistic about the future. Whether it's used to support our advocacy in the US, ensuring policymakers understand the importance of barrier-free trade in the context of this screwworm-impacted market, or it's in developing new emerging markets like Indonesia and meeting the unique challenges associated with a long-term relationship and growth in that market. All of this investment is put to great use. So with that, I'd just like to say one last time, thank you for the dedication and focus on growing our industry, and I'm convinced that the industry itself will respond with growth in supporting the rural economy and the whole Canadian economy. Thanks.
Ready?
Thanks.
Good.
The questions are going to get posed back to you.
Thank you. Oh. Thank you, Minister and Mr. Bienvenue and Mr. Fulton. We're going to take questions over here. If you could please state your name and outlet, that would be great. And one question and one follow-up. Thanks so much.
Where do you want us?
Where are we going? You can pet it afterwards if you want.
Thanks.
How you guys doing? I'm good. Yeah, I'm good now. I'm good as well.
Jordan Prentice, I'm with Global Calgary. I'm just wondering, like, this funding is going directly into marketing and trade advocacy. How will producers, ranchers, and entrepreneurs actually see the benefits of this investment?
Well, I think I think Tyler mentioned it in his comments. Certainly, having an opportunity to go into other markets. I think we've seen growing demand for beef. Canada is known around the world for their quality beef, and places like in Indonesia, places like Mexico that want to increase their capacity for beef. I think that's what we need to do, is maintain those markets and expand them at every opportunity to ensure that we build resiliency that was mentioned in the speeches. And I think that's, part or most of that money will go to that contribution.
And what metrics do you use to determine whether this funding is successful? Like, will it increase exports, higher cattle prices, new market access?
Well, I think most of this money is basically for agri-marketing itself and marketing into other regions. But I think there's also money there to make sure that we established ourselves in many markets around the world. We want to maintain those markets as well. So we can't lose sight of that. But we also need capacity, and Tyler talked about the growth opportunities here. I think what we do is build confidence in farmers. And if farmers see that they have the confidence, they're going to increase their herd. Last year it was 2.5%. with everything working the way it is right now, hopefully with no pitfalls, we'll see that herd grow even more. When that grows, we need more market. We need more market. We need more agri-marketing money so these guys can travel along with us, shoulder to shoulder, or on their own to increase those markets around the world.
Sir Aaron Collins with CBC National. You mentioned the size of Canada's herd. It's smaller than it's been in decades, right? I mean, it is growing a little bit now, but it's traditionally quite small. If you increase export markets, Canadians are already paying a ton for beef right now. How are you going to mitigate them paying more if we have a larger export share?
Well, it's not necessarily about the exports that it's a high price. I think that's a little bit of a misdemeanor on people's thoughts. I mean, what we need to do, as I mentioned before, is increase the confidence of farmers, especially young farmers, and ensure that they have all the tools in the toolbox or the resources to grow herds or even to get into the beef industry. And I think that's something that governments at every level must, concentrate on. And then, of course, when they see that we can increase the herds and have confidence in export, then they'll be more satisfied to get into the business.
Your government is looking at negotiating a free trade agreement with South America, which would increase imports of beef from those countries. Is sort of fostering access to these new markets a way of sort of offsetting that impact to our producers at home?
Well, look, trade is reciprocal, and we pay attention to that, of course. My job is to look out for these guys that are standing around me and try to do everything I can in policy to make sure that they're sustainable and prosperous. And so we'll continue. There's negotiations going on around the world with different countries. And I can tell you one thing, though, that everybody wants Canadian beef. And I think that makes my job a little easier because we have the product.
Quick clarification before we move on. This $4 million, that comes from that pot of money from 2023, right? That $129 million?
We increased the agri-marketing. I believe last year we increased it up to $75 million. It'll come from that pot of money.
Can I respond to the first question that you had? Tyler Fulton with the Canadian Cattle Association. I think what's often forgotten is that the products that are in demand here in Canada are not the same as what they are everywhere. And there's more than 200 products that come off of a cattle carcass. And so when we can optimize and get more value for some of those cuts that are in less demand here domestically, then it actually supports the rancher and feed yards without actually impacting domestic prices negatively. And further to that, we're already bringing in roughly 30% of domestic consumption of beef. There's a lot of beef, and that's the nature of a free and open trade. It has to be reciprocal. And so those principles, I think, are key in managing food price affordability.
Follow up there. Prices are high, and we hear that a big part of that is because the herd is smaller than it has been in the past. What do you need to hear or get from the federal government or other forms of support to help you incentivize to grow the herd across the country?
Yeah, confirmation that they have a desire to grow the herd as well, and it's dollars like this investment to support the work that we do to ensure that we have solid, profitable prices at the farm gate. Is what it is. And I think everything is aligned. The cattle cycle is a long one, and to be clear, consumers are quite focused on beef consumption. We are dealing with exceptional levels of demand. Exactly, and stampede.
You're not worried about a free trade agreement with South America, then?
No, we have concerns over that. We know that there's already complete access by Australia, New Zealand, the U.S. We are well served by those unrestricted, tariff-free, reciprocal agreements.
Dylan Short with All Alberta. Can I just ask you, Tyler, is $4 million enough, or would you like to see more?
In this, as I mentioned, with all of the risks and the uncertainty, what this helps us do is make those investments, make those relationships around the world, and in particular securing our U.S. market access. And so I think an additional investment would be more than welcome. We've actually got really good feedback that the payback on this investment is I think probably Eric could speak to it better, but it's on a order of 7 to 1 in terms of the marketing investment and the return back to farmers and ranchers.
And I believe in the announcement there's a focus on the Indo-Pacific, if I heard that correct. Are you able to get more in detail, like the specific countries that you're looking to really focus these dollars on, and would that be a new market or an existing market?
Again, Eric's probably a better option for this, but in particular, Indonesia, Vietnam, South Korea, and China, all of them represent great market opportunities and growing market opportunities.
To add to what Mr. Fulton has mentioned, obviously Thailand, Malaysia, markets where we don't have presence right now that we are looking at, but mostly that Southeast Asian belt where we need to maximize and enhance our footprint in those countries.
Are there specific initiatives that you're looking to do? Like, is it getting boots on the ground? Is it advertising campaigns? All of the above? Can you just...
All of the above. So not only will we have people on the ground, but as well is to work with all our stakeholders here, our packers, our meat processors, and consumers, customers, retailers, food service people in those locations to not only enhance brand awareness, but as well getting our product known through the different venues and increasing our sales. Just to add to what Mr. Fulton has mentioned, on the export side, last year with all our investment, we generated reported volumes and money of more than $100 million more in sales for all our Canadian industry.
Minister Tim Parent, Rural Roots Canada. These investments are all well and good for the ag sector, but there have been some severe cuts made to research and ag research in Canada. We've heard from agronomists and researchers across the country who are struggling with the closure of some of these ag research facilities. How do you respond to them, and what's happening with that research?
Look, I think research is extremely important. You sit down at the trade table, you have to have research to back up your products, which these guys have. Two beef scientists have actually moved to Guelph now in the support of the government. We don't want to do less research. The operational side of some of these facilities needs to be improved. We're working with governments and academias across the country now to include some of the additional information that we're being provided, and I think we'll likely have more to say in that in the future.
So can we expect some additional research funding from the government in the days, weeks, months ahead?
I think what we need to do is prioritize our research, but we have to base it on what industry wants. We can't just be going out and doing research. The world is changing very quickly. It's changing with AI. We need to understand exactly what the industry and stakeholders want, and we need to have them at the table to discuss and make the decisions on research as well.
I've got a question. CTV back here. So what all this means for consumers?
Yeah, just what does this mean for the consumer?
Well, I think Tyler basically answered that. I think I think the consumers love beef. I mean, beef intake is gone up in this country, and I think it's a kudos to our farmers and ranchers out there. I mean, they're providing us with top quality beef, and I think when you go to a different country like Indonesia, where Tyler and I were, and you walk into a convenience store and you see a ground beef with a Canadian flag in it, you're pretty proud to be able to say that you're from Canada and representing the beef industry. And I think what we need to do is build the confidence in our farmers to ensure that they can grow their herds, and I think part of that is part of this package.
Mr. MacDonald, Piper Whalen, Glacier Farm Media. You talked about this a little bit, but just for all of the agriculture producers across Canada, particularly beef producers who are concerned about some of the trade negotiations going on down south, are you able to comment on any progress that would be note to the farmers and ranchers back home?
Well, the comment is there's a delegation here from the United States at the Stampede, and I think if you talk to them, they fully understand, and we fully understand how integrated our two countries are and have been for centuries, and they fully understand the value of CUSMA to the economies of both countries. But it goes beyond the economics, as I said yesterday at the Alberta Beef Producers reception. It goes beyond the economies. It gets into science, shared sciences. It gets into friendships, traditionally families, generations of farmers. Look, when I sat down with Secretary Rollins, my comment to her was, she has 3 young children, and I said, the decisions you and I are making today on behalf of our 2 countries in this discussion are going to affect your young family and my young family for generations to come. So we have to keep that in mind. But I have all the respect in the world for the U.S. and the CUSMA deal. We need them and they need us, and I think that's the way it should be, and it makes for a better relationship.
Thanks, everyone.
Good.